Welcome here to our Do Brand Do in conversation with 30 minutes here with Anki, and really excited to have Anki here. She's got a great story about how she's been able to live the best version of herself, dealing with challenges that so many of us are dealing with. And then she's going to treat us to one of her real passions at the moment at the end. So stay with us and let's get started. Thank you, Anki, for joining us today.
Thank you, Lorraine, for having me.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard your stories for a while, for a few years, and I just want to get into this story about how there was a moment in your life that really changed how you perceive life, how you looked at it, what you went through to kind of change from who you were, probably not living the best version of yourself, into who you are now. So I know you've got a story for us, so I'll let you get started.
Thank you, Lorraine. My story, my life transformation happened 11 years ago, really. I was vacuuming. It was a very normal day in my life, and I was vacuuming my apartment, and I've got a pinched nerve. And I was stuck in one position, bent over, my vacuum cleaner couldn't move. And it took about 20 or 30 minutes just to reach my phone so I can call help. Couldn't move, and it was excruciating pain. And the only thing I could think of was, I'm 29. Now you know my age. I'm 29 and I'm going to die of a heart attack. And the reason I thought that was because I was a big girl. I was obese. And I was living very sedentary life. Didn't move much, sitting down, eating a lot of bad food and watching TV, basically. Was as lazy gets in terms of no hobbies, no activities. I had lots of passion in my head, but never realized anything.
Action. Yeah.
So it was that moment in the hospital when a friend of mine picked me up, took me to the hospital, which wasn't too far, thank heavens, because I could barely get into the car and out of the car. They couldn't give me enough medication to numb the pain because it was that bad. And I realized as a consequence later, I still have sciatica issues. But what happened in that moment was realization that I need to change my life. I thought, well, it could happen to anyone. But in my head, it happened because I was living such a life with no purpose. I didn't have any meaning. I didn't have any hobbies. I didn't have anything that I was interested in that I was doing. I had interest, but I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't moving my body. I wasn't being physically active. I wasn't being intellectually active. It was just living one day to another, the same day on repeat, like a Groundhog Day. And so I decided that I need to change. And the best way to change is I changed my diet habits and I started moving. So I was walking everywhere. And mind you, this was in UAE where a normal temperature it starts in April till October is around 45.
Yeah.
And I still made the decision, it's not going to bother me. I need to be active. I need to change my life. I need to flip it 180 in order to, if I change my life, if I change my habits of food, I thought my life can change. And it did. My transformation first happened physically.
Yeah.
And it took around 3 years to change mentally.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, because I was going to ask you, how did that happen? Because so many of us, we get ourselves, me included, into these kind of funks or periods in our life where we know we're not living the best version of ourselves. And like you say, that you want to make that change. I mean, it's so inspiring that you changed.
Thank you.
But physically you changed, but it took 3 years. Can you kind of speak about that? Because I think it's really these times where we're wanting to change. We make the decision, we do it for 4 or 5 days or a week, or if we're lucky, a month, and then we're back to square one and And all of these thoughts in our head are like, it's never going to change.
Yes. And I do sometimes get caught up in that too, even now, because the change is slow. And I think that's the reason why people kind of go, okay, I'm going to do it, stick for 1 week, then go extend it for another week, a month, and then they don't see change immediately and give up. My mindset was, I cannot change overnight.
Yep.
And I remember it was like a click that happened, like a switch, someone just one night like that. I was hungry and I reached for the fridge and I said to myself, actually, you're not hungry. You're just used to eating a lot of food.
Yeah.
I closed the fridge and I remember going to bed. I had a glass of water instead. And I went to bed feeling a little bit peckish, but not too much. And then all of a sudden it clicked on me. I'm eating because it's a comfort. I'm not hungry. My body doesn't need the energy. And that was the moment this sort of changed. It was as though I became this different person when it came to this change of it's mind over matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And obviously with specific diets, I started eating more veggies, more blander food, and nothing fried. It was all salads, and I would dedicate a particular day, especially during Lent, to eat very little, and my lunch was just a handful of nuts.
Okay.
And so I read a lot in terms of what I could do around the food, what foods are good, how do I make the food that's suitable for me. Did a lot of trial and error. So in this, I got caught up in reading about the food, learning about nutrition, learning how trial and error, what suits me, what doesn't suit me, what I like, what I don't like. That I realized that my body was changing, and I was on this road of transformation where I was, the reason I was successful because I had a purpose.
Right.
Because I knew what I wanted to get. And it wasn't just losing weight, it was changing life. And the losing weight was the sort of a side effect. And I understood that.
Right.
But that night when I realized that I wasn't hungry, that I was just used to eating a lot of food, is that my life was, I want to change my life.
Yeah.
The vicious cycle I got caught in.
Yeah.
And I want to break the cycle and change my mindset.
Yeah. It's interesting, Anki, you're in the Do Book Club, and at the moment we're reading that book, The Secret. And one of the things that really stood out for me was this whole idea of if we keep going back and trying to change the past, if we keep trying to change the past, keep thinking about the past, like in your situation, keep thinking about, being overweight or not being what you want, that doesn't help our mindset or our thought process. It's like for you, you're saying I had a purpose, and within that purpose, I mean, you literally put your hand out, and it's like, it's a purpose that has a vision, and there's now you're future focused, and it's something that, I've known, but right now for me, it's really coming back home to, getting that purpose and that vision. I mean, for me, that's where you change from being the best version of yourself, that thought, like you said, of what you wanted, to actually taking action. But the action has to be living towards that vision and purpose that you have, and not continually looking back. So could you kind of talk on that a little bit, because I think that holds a lot of people back, actually. They're trying to change, but they keep looking backward. Like they're always looking backward of, like, it's almost as if, for example, in weight loss, it's always like, I don't want to go back to that old weight I was. I don't want to go back to that old weight, instead of thinking about, well, my body will be so much better and in a better place when I'm, the slower weight. Have you had any of that kind of thought process?
Yes, so the thought process was up and down, because what would happen was there was a period I was addicted to scales and standing on and see how much weight I've lost, and would sometimes get obsessed over it. But I've told myself, because it happened sort of in gradual steps, where I would lose 2 kgs, gain one, lose two, gain one, lose two, gain one. And that was frustrating. That was really frustrating, because all I wanted was just, why can't I just shed 10 kilos,
Yeah.
you know? And you get caught up in that at times. But I was always conscious enough to remind myself I have a bigger goal.
Yeah.
And that when I would see myself going into this again, my vicious cycle, I would consciously search for it. I would consciously look for it. Where is this thought pattern that I keep having and that I need to break away from? And one of it was, I was always a big girl. I was always overweight. Everybody used to call me, kids used to stop me on the street and call me fat. And I don't want that anymore. So what I want is healthy, not necessarily skinny, healthy.
Yeah.
So health is important. I want to not die of a heart attack. I don't want to have a cholesterol. I don't want to have saggy skin. What I want is a healthy body, and then with healthy body comes a healthy mind.
Yep. Yep.
And that was my constant reminder. And I would put notes. I would put Post-its around my apartment and in my office, health and you go, keep going, eat healthy. I didn't reach that stage in the beginning where I was, you're good enough, I love you, and things like that. That didn't come into play. It was that initial stage of, it's health priority, and I can do this.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
And it's all about moving, eating healthy, and having changing that vicious cycle that I would get myself caught up, and understanding what triggers it.
Yeah.
And I understood my triggers very early on.
Yeah. This is so powerful, Anki, what you're saying, because it's a transformation then that can happen for any part of anyone's life. That your goal was not to lose a certain amount of weight. Your goal was very specific. And I think that is something that, that I've found is the more specific I can be, the more clarity I have on where I'm going and what I'm doing, the better it is. I always put it down. I mean, I'm a big walker, a big hiker, and I always put it down. If I start at the trailhead and I have no idea where I'm going or what I'm going to do or what I want to achieve by the time I finish, it's just wandering around and it doesn't go anywhere.
Exactly.
And so how have you found some of these techniques and skills that you've used to change mindset? How has that played out then in other parts of your life?
Oh, because I realized that I can do that slowly in every aspect of my life.
Yeah.
For instance, I wasn't a big on making my bed and keeping my apartment too clean, because when you live a lifestyle like that, you very, like I said, I know lazy sounds bad connotation, but it was a bit of a bum style, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I saw this video of Marine. He's in a university right now, a dean of some sorts, where he said that he learned how to make bed when he first joined the Navy.
Yeah.
And he described how important it is that if you make the bed, because if you don't, one person doesn't make the bed, everybody suffers. And I thought, okay, I can do that. I can try making my bed, because I've already established a habit of eating healthy, being active.
Yeah.
So let me push it to another level. So let me clean up my place and keep it sort of relatively tidy, because, I can't tell anyone how to live their life if my life is a mess.
Yeah.
So I started making the bed, and I would make it military style, tight, everything in its right place. And then I remember about 20 days later or so, I was walking in the morning. It was around 7 in the morning. I was getting ready to go to work, and I walked out of my front door, and then it realized, did I make the bed? And I turned around, looked at my bed, it was made, and I'm like, oh, it's a habit now.
It's a habit now. That's
now
so cool.
I don't have to think about it anymore. It's a habit. I get up, I make the bed.
Yep.
And then I do my morning routines. And so that's when I realized I can introduce things into my life, but slowly.
Yep.
That I shouldn't start with having 5 different things that I want to change.
Right.
One is enough.
One's enough.
Start with one, make it, because I started with the food and I realized that was working. I started then with an exercise. I connect to the dots and then with bed. And I'm like, okay, so what's the next thing? And the next thing was try to figure out different things that I'm doing that I didn't like about my personality. For instance, I was not accepting myself.
Wow.
And
So
I
common.
was telling myself, started talking positive.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and realizing that I was mostly taking care of myself. I was living by myself, but I didn't love myself.
Yeah.
And what was strange enough is that seed of not loving myself has been planted by a few of my friends. And one friend
Really?
in particular, yeah. He
Mm.
told me before I started this journey, he said, "You're very bubbly person and you like to smile a lot. And I love how you smile from the heart. But I don't think you love yourself." And I was like,
Okay.
oh, that's odd to think to say. Who loves themselves, you know?
Yeah.
Very critical of ourselves. And then I realized he's right. I don't.
Mm.
And if I don't love myself, how can I love anyone else or the world?
Exactly.
Or
Yeah,
so,
I get that a lot when I talk about being and doing the best version of yourself. I've had people kind of clap back and say, "Yeah, but isn't that selfish? You're focusing on yourself." And I said, it's only when we can, know that we have a purpose in our life, that our life is important, that who we are matters and what we do
yeah.
matters. It's only when we really understand that we can truly now look at somebody else and go, your life matters too,
Yes.
you know?
And you cannot give to anyone. Now, you can look at it as selfish, loving yourself, but not loving yourself as in being narcissist.
Yep. Yep.
Loving yourself as accepting that this is who you are,
Yep.
this is how you look, this is how you, this is your character,
Yeah.
your flaws and your virtues, and this is what you have to deal with and work with.
Yeah.
Embrace it, and then that version of you becomes the servant to others as well. And
Yeah.
that's how you show, that's how you spread the love to the world.
Mm.
If you don't embrace yourself the way you are,
Yep.
it's going to be very, very hard to, I sacrifice and I give everything for others and no one gives anything for me. Well, stop there for a second and think, do you give yourself?
Yep.
Have you
That's right.
accepted yourself first?
Yeah.
And if you haven't, how can you give to others?
That's so true. So yeah, we'll wrap this story up, but I really want to share to me what really stood out, and I'm sure it stood out to other people. And that is that, you had that purpose and that vision. It wasn't losing weight. It was a very real clarity on what you
Yeah.
wanted in the future. But to me, what really stood out is the persistence, the ability to say this is going to be a slow change and not like setting such high expectations. So it was like, I didn't meet it. Now fail. It was you knowing that process, and then having that process, you were able to really move that over to having, just, a lot more success in what you were doing. Before we get on to resilience, which I really want to hear a lot more about with what your perceptions of that are, I do also want to say that you talked about at 29 that you were living without purpose, and then you finding that purpose. There's this kind of misconception, especially with people that are, kind of like trying to be entrepreneurs or things like that. There's a lot of people on this channel that are seeking that kind of lifestyle, that there's this idea that to live our purpose, we have to have it be our income. And I just
Oh,
wanted you to give a clarity to that, because I think you really understand that part, that our purpose and our vision isn't tied into how we connect and make money,
yeah.
if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if your purpose is to make money,
Yeah.
it's not, you could make money and then what?
Yeah.
That's how I see it, because there's only so much money you can accumulate. And what happens when something happens?
Yeah.
And then money's gone, because people lose money just as quickly as they get it. I don't see correlation with monetary drive or purpose with a soulful purpose.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because if you live a purposeful life where you have identify or want to achieve meaning of your life,
Yep.
or understanding how you fit into the world, or for lack of better phrasing, what's the meaning of life, right? Because
Right.
if you put it in that terms, then it becomes more valuable, more motivating.
Yep. Yeah.
Because if you're only motivated monetary, it's short term.
Yep. That's
And
right.
I've heard so many kids, literally kids, who by the age of 30 were billionaires.
Yep. Yeah.
And realized that life is not money.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, of course not, because yes, it's nice to cry in a Bentley, or it's nice to have a mansion to cry in, but that mansions cannot hold you when you're sad.
Yeah.
And that Bentley cannot give you comfort when you're feeling anxious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you will go through those periods in life.
Yeah.
What you need is friendships and understanding that you are enough and you can get through things, and having that as your motivation and serving others. Because I've realized that when I am in service of others is when I'm most fulfilled.
Yep.
And that's why I'm in my profession that I am in training, because the knowledge I acquire, I love to pass it on.
Yep.
And that is a good service to others, and that fulfills me more than a fat paycheck. It's nice to have money. It's nice not to worry finances. Far from it. Yeah. But it's not the purpose. If it's wrong, it's going to be a very short, disappointing purpose.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, we are in, whether people have a job, they get so attached to that job title, or if they have a business, they get so attached to that business. But businesses fails, people lose jobs, companies go under.
Exactly.
And we really, it's one of my things that I speak on a lot, is we have to really move away from that purpose, that vision. Our life's meaning is all of who we are. It's who we are personally and professionally and everything. And like you, when it's just part of who you are, then you choose to have a way to earn money by doing what you love. And like you say, working in a job that you like, that serves your full meaning. I love that. Let's get on to digging into your thoughts on resilience, a huge topic, but love to hear what you have to say about that.
Resilience to me is all about being awake and understanding that things happen and being present in the moment. And there are different methods to achieve that. And you will go through hardships in life. And it's most of but whether we realize it or not, the hardships are self-inflicted to a huge degree. So having that resilience to understand that, okay, I'm going to not, So and this is my favorite one, and it works for me like magic, is I think I shared that with you. One of my methods is I named my brain after Bruce Willis, so I call it Bruce. And so when I have these thoughts and I tend to ruminate on things, I stop Bruce and I tell him, okay, you've had your moment. You've had your rumination. Yeah, you that's enough now. I have other bigger fish to fry at the moment. I need to get ready for work, or I need to meet up with my friends. I want to be present. Enough of that stuff. We can come back to it later, no problem. But for now, let's move on. And the other one that I like to use, and that all of a sudden changes my day. That's it. Like Bruce shuts up.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It always surprises me. And if he goes back by half an hour later, I go like, I said enough. Well, you had a moment. I love you. I think you're wonderful, but let's stop this for a moment. You've had this rumination. I've given you the freedom. Now I want my life back.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Anki, I find that really interesting that you're talking about, yeah, your brain and Bruce and saying that these thoughts
Yeah.
are coming in and you are not trying to push them away, not think about them. You're acknowledging them. I was just listening to a podcast, Lewis Howes. I think you've listened to Lewis Howes as well. I'm not sure.
Mm,
His
sounds
podcast?
familiar.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had a guest on and he was talking about just that is that we don't, sometimes we think we shouldn't have any bad thoughts. We shouldn't have any negative thoughts. It's fine to have them. They're going to exist. And like you say, with your brain, calling it Bruce and just saying, I acknowledge that it's here, but right now I got to get on. I need to be present. And
Yeah.
that's really the essence of doing the best version of ourselves is saying, hey, I'm going to jump into the driver's seat now and I'm driving and you thoughts you can just sit there. You can hang out with me, but you just can't cause any issues. So what is the other, I think you had another avenue here you wanted to share about with
Yes.
resilience. Yeah.
Just to add to the Bruce is I
Oh,
think that once you give your thoughts a persona,
yeah.
they becomes like someone like a friend you talk to, and that makes it easier
So good. Yeah.
to acknowledge them. Yeah. The other one was breathing, because breathing is an actual biological
Mm,
process,
mm,
an oxygenation of your body and particularly your brain.
yeah.
And when you provide your brain more oxygen, you become more aware and more alive. And so okay, I'm going to stop for a second, take a couple of deep breaths, and
Yeah.
just focus on just that breathing.
Mm,
And that helps a lot getting, because I process things intellectually as well. If
right.
I understand what happens biologically and why is it beneficial for my body, I deal with it better, I accept it better.
Yeah.
But if it's too of a abstract, I
Mm,
reject it automatically until I understand it. So if the breathing makes perfect sense to me, because it means that in a state of panic or in a state of anxiousness or in a state of distress, the first thing that drops is your oxygen level.
right.
And so to put the oxygen back into your body, you need to do a bit of breathing, deep breathe, four, count to four breath in and count to six breath out. And
Mm,
that allows you to calm down, to get more oxygen into your body and start thinking more rationally and
yeah.
being awake, being present. This is what's going on. I didn't die.
Yeah.
I'm going to be fine. What's
Mm,
the real issue here?
yeah. I love that. It's almost you've come full circle on this because the way you were dealing with your story about, your weight loss and that, it was all about you choosing to learn how does my body work
Yeah,
and doing it through trial and error and saying things like, I need to know what food is good for me and what
yeah,
might not only what the books say, but then try it on my body, see what it's like. How is it helping? And then the same, like with resilience, you're looking at how to create this, your brain as a persona, and then how to use breath to really regulate it. It's just so much of, the
yeah.
example of doing the best version of yourself, taking action on your own body and learning about that. That's something I'm so fascinated with.
And
Yeah, so cool.
it's not that difficult, really.
Yeah,
It's just having we get caught up. We think we have a busy lives and
yeah,
we have our little monotony that we're comfortable with, but it can become the resilience, and your mindset and the lifestyle can become your habit
yeah.
where you live it.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I just love that. Yeah, thank you so much, Angi. We're going to wrap this up. We keep these at about 30 minutes. It's just been great to have a chat with you. So inspiring. And
Thank you.
what really comes over is the calmness that you have, the peacefulness that you have and who you are. And that is really one of the biggest takeaways is not to try to change everything at once, but just a little bit at a time. Just getting into that real rhythm of who we are at that better level that we aspire to be. So I'll end with I always like to ask people what their favorite quote is and why that is. I don't know if you have one up your sleeve or.
One at the moment, because it changes based on that.
Yeah.
And I'll read it out here. It's right behind me. It's 12 Rules for Life. And I think it's number 9.
Yep.
And it's by Jordan Peterson. And it's assume that the person you are listening might know something.
What's that?
Assume that the person you are talking to or listening knows something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't rush to answer. Don't rush to make judgments. Assume that they might have something that you can learn from or something new to adapt. And I find that absolutely lately, the last couple of months, absolutely a gem.
Yeah. So much.
At active listening.
So much as if, I've helped a lot of people coaching with, just helping them in their communication and that type of thing, both, like on stage or, through our social media or whatever. And I always say that the biggest part of communication is listening. And again, it just resonates with who you are, of being present. To be present, to know that you have value and meaning in your life. And like we said before, it's when you know that you know other people do. And what a neat way to finish on that. For today, those listening to really take that challenge. And when you come up with somebody, to not think about what you're going to say or anything or about your importance or your problems or whatever, but when you meet them, to say, wow, they've got something to say. What can I learn from them? How can I do a great job of listening? What a great way to end. Oh, that's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you,
Anki, for stopping by here and having a conversation here on the Do Brand You channel. And I look forward to probably having you back. I'd love to have another conversation as well.
Sure. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.